does God ask us to respect everyone? My daughter was being a real pill today to my other daughter and to just people in general. And so I told her, you have to go to your room. We're going to talk about something, as her and her sister were fighting. And she ran to the room and she screamed, "You don't respect me." So I said, okay, I'm going to just give her a second to just brood and think about what she's getting on with and what she's saying. Then I came in the room and I said, "Darling, I respect you. You just don't like that I'm not okay with your disrespect of others. And I respect you enough to say no to you, and I actually care about you." Oh, she wasn't happy at first to hear that. And then I went through the progression of, what respect actually means. And we talked about her mind, her opinions, her thoughts, her body. And I said, does mommy and daddy respect you? And she says, well, yes. So I said, well, what are we talking about here? Well, why are you so frustrated? And she said, well, it's because she's not getting her voice heard and her opinion is not taken seriously. And I said, no, we've taken your opinion seriously, but it's just an opinion that's wrong, and you're not allowed to do that. It's not right. It's mean to your sister. It's mean to other people. And then she said, well, sometimes you don't respect me in that way. And that kind of caught me off guard for a second. And, I'm paraphrasing what a 4-year-old says, but it hit me a little bit. And I said, okay, well, how is that? And sometimes she says, you don't let me finish what I'm saying. And, or sometimes you don't let me try new things. And I said, okay, sometimes that is true. That is very true. So I said, look, I apologize. However, if it's dangerous or something, I'm not going to apologize for that. If it's not going to be good for you, I'm not going to apologize. But I'm sure there's some times where I don't understand how you feel. And yeah, in those moments, it's not the fact that I don't respect you, but I may not be respecting the situation we're in properly. And I need to do better. And she was already calm by this time. I wouldn't have a conversation with her if she was being disrespectful anyways, and really get to the bottom of things, because every parent's different. That's just how we're trying to parent. And so she calmed down. She had her time out and she lost some stuff, and it got me thinking about respect in our lives and who we're supposed to respect. Now, I'll set the precedence and I'll give you the answer right away. Well, it's everybody, and that is in 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 17, where it says to respect everyone. And it goes on to share that thought process of respecting the emperor as well, someone who at the time was going around really hurting Christians, most likely murdering them. And even then, Peter is telling us to respect them. Now, this is very countercultural, because at the time in the Jewish world, the ones who were not following Christ, or probably even the ones that were following Christ that weren't as versed in Christ's teaching at the time, you were just really supposed to respect people of honor, people who are quote unquote godly, and usually people who were older, not younger people. In fact, at the time there was multiple cultures that treated children like dirt. I think we've talked about before, if you've never been on the channel, but if you have watched the videos in the past, I've talked about how the Roman culture, if you had a child, that child would essentially be pretty much indebted to you your entire life. And if you as the parent wanted to end that child's life at pretty much any time in their entire life, if you're alive, you could do it, because children were the property of their parents. And that is an awful, awful burden to bear. That would give, the strongest people in society anxiety, much less, a day-to-day, you're a 15-year-old, a 20-year-old, a 6-year-old, and you're always worried about this very rash, mean father in your life that could end your life at any time. I can't even imagine that we were that barbaric in human history. So this is very countercultural what Peter's saying in the Bible. He's saying that we are supposed to respect everyone equally. This is, again, a nutty thought, because the world is all about ancient respect, old respect, respect of elders. In fact, we probably could actually learn some of that today, as many people do not respect their elders. But Peter is saying to respect everyone. So like I was saying earlier, I took the time to think about my daughter and her asking me to listen to her a little bit more. And I thought, you know what? I need to respect her a little bit more. I need to be more concerned about the things she has to say, even if they're completely wrong. I need to be the one to guide her through those things, and not just act like, as a father, I always know what I'm doing, because I'll be the first one to apologize in a lot of situations. I like to be right with people, and it says in the Bible that a wise man, a wise woman loves correction. So let me get on with that. Let me be the best dad that I can be to my girls, to my future son. And so I started thinking about all the other relationships in my life where I may have been disrespectful. And in having that lens and that verse in my heart and in my mind, I said, okay, let me start going through them. And I saw a bit of a pattern in my life that I didn't like today. And that was, I was a little bit more respectful to the people who acted respectfully or who held a title. And I think I was a little bit less respectful to the people who didn't. And that is absolutely 100% wrong. And so I'll say to you, and I've said to my wife and to my family already today, that, you know what, I have not been a great example of what Peter is talking about in 1 Peter chapter 2, verses 17, which is to respect everyone. Of course, again, there is the respect of elders. There is respect of the people that God has put in our lives that have authority. But in so many ways, the gospel is to level the playing field as to our self-worth and the worth that we have and we see in others. And it doesn't stop there. It goes to the officer at the traffic light. It goes to, the person who is unhoused, who's asking for change. It goes to the boss who might be a miserable acting person. It goes to, that sibling that you just can't get along with right now. It goes to, the person who wrongs you in traffic. We need to respect people because God is asking us to, and there's a huge love element that is attached to that. Now, after I thought about the kind of the extended world and the way I'm interacting on a respectful level, I thought then as I went through my day, I would spend time re-engaging some of the relationships that I have in my life. And so I had a relationship situation with someone who was a bit older than my daughters. And, instead of maybe at times making a sarcastic comment or joke or trying to get them, to laugh or whatever it might be, I just started asking them a little bit more quote unquote mature questions. And it astounded me at how thoughtful they were. And I said, okay, here I've categorized this, young person in a certain way, and I have to recalibrate because they had a lot to offer. And then I was talking to someone who was maybe half my age, and I decided to give them the opportunity to take the lead in a situation. Now, granted, of course, I'm not just going to go around and let anyone do whatever they want. Respect is also in many ways earned, right? Or I guess more trust is earned. But, you have to definitely earn someone's respect on some level. But the concept is, I think, to go in with the mindset to want to respect people and situations. Now, if people are not respecting your boundaries, let's say, or they're being disrespectful to you in general, you pray for them, you help them, but you got to build those boundaries as well. So I leaned into that respect, and I was pleasantly surprised with how they were able to lead something today. And then there was people who are older than me, who I may not agree with in some way or another, and I took the time to really ponder what they were saying and think about the wisdom that they had. because each of the people who I interacted with today had uh, their own wonderful, unique perspective on a situation in life that gives me an opportunity to really respect and trust what they have to say from their point of view and their angle. Now, again, if they're completely wrong, or if they've broken my trust, or they're hurting my boundaries, that's a vastly different situation to be in. So, I was very thankful that I was able to go down and have this kind of thought exercise, and it did inevitably help my relationships to be that much better. And I think that is what Peter is talking about, what Paul is talking about in Corinthians and Romans, about respecting and loving everyone. It's not about a hierarchy anymore. If anything, Jesus came to smash that hierarchy. As he says in Matthew, that the first shall be last and the last shall be first. The ones who are the most servant-like on earth will be the ones who are the highest exalted in heaven. And I think that's something that I need to continue to practice and learn from, and really put in my heart on a consistent basis, because there are honestly just so many times when I will dismiss someone for not knowing some things, and it is just absolutely wrong. So this is kind of a bit of a, I guess, a confessional on dad doing dishes, and just hopefully some warning to any of you who are steeped in the faith, or really understand or know something, or in a groove, to really just take the time to listen to people around you. And even if, maybe you don't even respect the person, maybe they have been terrible to you, there's still a lot of nuggets of truth that you can pull from people. If you like this video and you want to watch more dad doing dishes, take a look at this video right here in the playlist. And if you'd like to subscribe, it's probably right about here, somewhere in there. I just want to say thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, evening, morning, or night. God bless.